My name is Grace, and I'll be the one leading your main presentation today. And I work for the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, and I am what's called an aquatic ecology education specialist. So I teach more about water-related topics, kind of like fish. And then I have a co-host who's just going to kind of be here if you were to send anything in the chat, and she'll be able to watch it. So I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Thumbs up. Awesome.
Yay.
So I am a naturalist here at Ponca State Park. So typically on a normal year, you all would be here with us. But we hope that you can visit Ponca State Park soon. And today we're just going to be with your classroom here. Grace is a great program for you.
Can you guys all see that fish adaptations PowerPoint? Thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you for your participation. So like I said, my name's Grace Gard, and there is a picture of me there with a very strange looking fish. And so today, that's all what we're going to talk about is fish adaptations, the things that make fish unique. And we'll hopefully find out some cool new things that we didn't know before. And just as a quick interest question, how many of you guys have heard of Nebraska Game and Parks? You can just raise your hand. Have any of you heard of Nebraska Game and Parks before today? Nobody. Are there any hands raised? Zero? Okay, well that's good. I want to tell you guys real quick a couple things that Nebraska Game and Parks does then. So basically we are a state agency, so we are located throughout the whole state of Nebraska, and there are parks that are part of Game and Parks, and Katie works at one of those called Ponca State Park, and there are I think 7 other ones besides Ponca. And then we have historical parks that are preserved because of different history, things that have happened in those locations. And then also, if you know anyone that goes hunting or fishing or camping, any of those things, any of you guys like to do them, you can raise your hand. Anybody like to go fishing? Oh, I see a couple. That's good. So if you like to do any of those things, Game and Parks actually helps create the rules that go along with fishing or hunting or camping. And we like to provide places for you to do those things too. So that's kind of a brief overview of what we do. And there's a lot of different people that work at Game and Parks too, doing biologist work or education like me, or like Katie. If you're at a park, you kind of do a lot of different things. So pretty cool place to work, and hopefully you guys will learn more about it as we go. But I'm going to go ahead and address the fact that you guys have fish in front of you. Does everybody have about 2 fish in front of them? Yes, awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna really quickly, you guys are doing, from what I can see on the camera, a great job of just not touching your fish yet. So good job. I'm just gonna really quick tell you what kind of fish are in front of you. So there is one type of fish called a bluegill. Raise your hand if you've seen a bluegill before. A few of you guys in the back that go fishing, I see your hands. They're a pretty common fish in Nebraska. And that italicized word, Lepomis macrochirus, that is what we call the Latin name for the fish. So that's how scientists kind of group these fish, by those special scientific names. So you've got bluegill. How about raise your hand if you have this fish in front of you? This fish. Oh, anyone else have this fish in front of them on the table? Maybe I see one hand in the back. We've got the channel catfish is what this type of fish is. And so there's 2 pictures up there because the one without spots is actually the male catfish, and the one that kind of has speckles on it is more likely to be a female catfish. So that's why not all fish tend to look different, but these 2 kind of can. So I wanted to give you that picture. And then you also might have a rainbow trout in front of you. Does anybody have a rainbow trout on their table? Ooh, a lot more of you guys. Awesome. Cool. So rainbow trout are not necessarily from Nebraska, but they can survive here. And so I wanted you guys to be able to take a look at these 2 because each of these fish is different, and we're going to talk about why that is. So We are going today to talk about adaptations. So I want one of you guys to answer, what is an adaptation? Does anybody want to answer that question?
It's a change an animal might do to change it. Like say if there's a new predator, it might change to camouflage itself.
Ooh, I love it. Great job. You are totally on track. And so the reason that it might change color is to help it what, you guys? Survive. Good job. So adaptations are all about survival. So that's going to be kind of our focus for us to keep in mind throughout our whole program today. The point of an adaptation is to help it survive. And we're actually going to talk about the fact that there are two types of adaptations that a living thing could have, and fish definitely fall into that category, right? So one of these adaptations, do you know what the name might be of one type of adaptation that fish could have? There's two main big categories. Does anyone have a guess?
You would know to shout it out.
We're not sure? How about I give you a clue? One type of adaptation has to do with how the animal looks. So it has to do with their body.
Camouflage?
Ooh, that is a great example of this type of adaptation. So I'm going to actually put it up here on the screen for you guys. There is one type of adaptations that's the big, broad category of adaptations is called physical adaptations. Have you guys heard physical before? Yeah. So physical is like what is on their body that is going to allow them to survive in their environment that they're adapted to live in, right? Can anyone think of a physical adaptation besides camouflage? Just one other one? You could shout it out if you want.
You said maybe something on their body that scares the predators away.
Ooh, I love that. That's a great one. Yes. So one of the examples actually that I have on my PowerPoint is if you guys have ever seen a white-tailed deer before, many of the males have antlers, right? So that's on their body, and there's a reason that it's there, right? It helps them to maybe fight with another deer or scare it away, right? So that was perfect, a great example. So the other really, really big category of adaptation types is going to actually be what we call behavioral adaptations. Okay, so can anyone tell me what behavior means? Ooh, I heard it, yes. How you act, right? And so same with animals, how they act might change in order to help them survive. So it's an action that they might do to help them survive, right? We just said that. So our example of this, to tie in with the white-tailed deer, is those antlers would be used to earn a girlfriend for them, right? Because they need that to keep the life cycle going of deer. So they really always want to find a mate, and the antlers are useful to be able to attract one and keep it so they can fight off the other males, right? So those are adaptations that are important to a deer, but we're going to totally switch gears and make sure we're going to be talking about fish. So before we can do that, since not all of you have seen fish or maybe don't go fishing, I want you guys to know kind of the different body parts or structures that you could find on a fish. Okay, so because we're going to be looking at those right in front of you pretty quick here. So does anybody know any of the body parts of a fish? You can just go ahead and shout them out. Oh, I heard gills. Was there one other different one? Fins. Okay, so I'm just gonna start popping up these different labels on this fish. So we know a mouth and we know eyes. Kind of a cool one is where they smell from, like their nose. It's called the nares. They have those things covering their body, right? They have scales. Gills, like you guys said. And actually the gills are not what we see. The gills are underneath that thing covering it. And so that thing that covers the gills is called an operculum. Kind of a cool word. Can you guys say operculum? Operculum. Nice. And then there's a lot of fins on fish, right? So they each actually have different names. There's the dorsal fin, the pectoral fin, the pelvic fin, the anal fin, caudal fin, and then there is one other type of fin called an adipose fin, but this actually is not on this current fish we're looking at. So just keep that in mind as we go because it might come up later. And then there is something called a lateral line that goes down a fish. Does anyone know what a lateral line is for? Anybody want to take a guess?
So that's where its spine is?
Ooh, I like that. That's a good guess. And it definitely, their spine is probably pretty close to where that line is, but actually the lateral line is something that can like, they can sense other fish that they're swimming next to. And that's how when you see big schools of fish, maybe at the zoo or on a video where they're all swimming next to each other, the lateral line helps them so that they don't run into each other. It helps them sense each other. So it's kind of a really cool thing that fish have that not other animals have. So with that, we have a really cool activity we're gonna do, you guys. So you guys raise your hand if you have fish in front of you. Everybody's hand should be raised, hopefully. Good job. Okay. Do you have this worksheet in front of you? Thumbs up. Great. Okay, so have you guys used a Venn diagram before? Yes. All right, so we kind of understand how this works, right? Basically, the first thing that I'm going to have you guys actually do, can you remember the 3 types of fish? Okay, so we've got rainbow trout, which is up here, catfish, bluegill. So I want you guys to go ahead and label those fish really fast on your worksheet so that you can remember what kind of fish you were looking at. So if you have a pencil or a pen, doesn't matter.
Remember, you have your stuff set up. How you're gonna write.
And don't worry if you don't know exactly how to spell it, that's okay. But you can go ahead and put your labels on there. And then what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes, and you are going to have that time to look at your fish closely, observe the different characteristics that your fish has that you think might be an adaptation that helps it survive. And then what you're gonna kind of do is use this diagram, and say you're looking at just the bluegill, then you're gonna write down just the things like where it says example stripes, write down the things in that area of the circle that have to do with just the bluegill, right? And then there might be some things between the bluegill and the catfish circle, so that's the section where they overlap, that they have in common. And you guys could go ahead and fill that in. So that'll be during your 5 minutes. You'll get time to work on this worksheet and observe your fish, okay? And you have your gloves on so that you can pick up the fish. If you even want to kind of slip one glove off and touch the fish and feel if it's slimy or not, you could probably do that, but wait, don't start yet. And then we'll go ahead after you guys get your 5 minutes to do this, which the whole time I will be sitting here. And so if you have a question you really want to ask while you're doing this or anything like that, talk to your teacher and maybe she can send you up to the front computer to ask me that question or anything like that, okay? So the things that I want you guys to look for before I set you off for your 5 minutes, look at things like the body shape. Look at the colors of your fish. Maybe look at the mouth shape that it has and how big it is. The eyes, maybe their size like that. And then maybe the fins, are they all the same? Are they the same shape? Are they in the same place on their body when you compare them to the other fish in front of you? And if you only have 2 fish in front of you, which you probably should because that's the way it's set up, I have this photo that I'm gonna put up here and I'm gonna leave it up here for the 5 minutes. And you guys can go ahead and say you have a catfish and a trout in front of you, but not a bluegill, then you can use this picture up here to look at in order to make your observations. Or maybe someone at the table near to you has the same fish, but I think you guys should stay in your seats unless your teacher gives you permission to move, okay? Any questions before we start, or do you know what you're doing? Thumbs up or thumbs down? All right, great. Okay, I'm gonna start a timer on my phone. You guys have 5 minutes to work quietly on this with your table mate or people that sit close to you, okay? All right. First thing that I want to know is I will have 3 people tell me something that they noticed during this activity. So your teacher will call on 3 different people to share something that they noticed that they thought was cool, that they thought maybe it was gross, whatever you want to share.
Hey, Valerie, loud and proud.
The bluegill skin is thicker and less slimier, but the eyes are very slimy.
Oh, so the bluegill is not very slimy, but the eyes are?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. I think that's an awesome thing. What else?
All right, Leo, loud and proud.
I think that the channel Catfish, the females have dots on them to identify each other.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good observation. So you guys, do you have both males and female catfish in your classroom, or do you just have one?
It looks like there's more female than anything, but I think
Okay.
there's less male. Yeah.
Cool, awesome.
Okay.
What else? One more.
Go ahead.
I realized that the catfish has darker eyes than the bluegill.
Ooh, okay. That's an interesting observation. Great. Okay, so what I want you guys to do next, and I'll give you about 1, maybe 2 minutes, depending on how we're doing to do this. I want you to talk to someone sitting close to you. I'm gonna have you guys talk with a partner real quick about what was a unique adaptation on one of the fish that you were looking at. So talk to each other. I'll give you about 1 minute. Great job, you guys. What other question that I have for you, let's see if my PowerPoint will work. Why aren't all the fish exactly the same? So I'll have your teacher call on a few of you, maybe a couple, to talk about why are these fish not exactly the same?
Johnny, loud and proud.
One,
A little louder.
because one, like, the bluegill, for an example, like, it's more harder and stiff, and then, like, for me, the rainbow trout was super, like, soft and, like, easy to cut through.
Okay, awesome. So is there a reason that you think that maybe their bodies would be different like that to help them survive for some reason?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Like maybe it depends on where they live too, right? Let's have someone else answer the question too.
Aaron?
So the bluegill's probably like soft and stiff because it's smaller and more like fish might want to come for it, and the rainbow trout is like bigger, so less like other fish might not want to go for it.
I like that. Nice. I like the way you're thinking about that, right? Because maybe their body shape helps them either swim faster or maybe it helps them swim lower to the bottom of the water versus maybe some of them. Like, I don't know how many of you guys have ever been by a lake before, but usually you can actually see bluegill swimming around pretty well closer to the surface, but a catfish, you're less likely to see. Why would that be?
They usually live at the bottom.
Yeah, they like to hang out at the bottom. So we're gonna dive into that a little more here. Those 2 fish, by the way, that are currently up there on the screen, those are real fish that you could find in Nebraska. They're pretty cool. So as you can see, there are lots of different looking fish. So here is just a picture of your guys' worksheet and some of the answers that you could have come up with. Not necessarily all of them. Maybe you guys thought of something that I didn't think of. Okay, but do any of you guys just give me a thumbs up if you see something that you wrote down on your paper up here on this screen? I see one hand raised. Anybody else?
Okay, any thumbs up if you have something that that she has?
Maybe. Did you guys notice that like the rainbow trout has a spotted pattern on it? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the bluegill maybe has kind of more stripes on it, correct?
It has an orange color.
And the orange, right? Yeah, for sure. So one of the interesting things I want to point out that the trout and the bluegill have in common is that they both have scales on their body. Did you guys notice that? Yeah, so scales are important for helping protect them. The design of the scales can actually kind of help them swim faster depending on what kind. And actually that the bluegill probably swims pretty fast because its scales are designed to help it zoom through the water. But an interesting thing, if you look down at the catfish, did you guys notice any scales on your catfish? Yeah, they actually don't have scales. They're a scaleless fish, which is pretty cool. They just have a different kind of body covering that's a little bit more like, not quite like a shark, but it's smooth, right? So it looks different. What did the catfish have that the other two fish did not have?
Whiskers.
Yeah, those whiskers, right? And the scientific word for those is actually called barbels. Can you say that?
Barbels.
Barbels. Does anybody know what barbels are useful for? In the back, maybe? Well, somebody had their hand raised.
Karen?
Like to like sense, like to feel around the face.
Yeah, good job. So those actually, they kind of have a sensors in them that help them find food. A lot of people sometimes think that barbels are like stingers, but the big thing that if you guys didn't notice on the catfish that you have to watch out for is that top dorsal fin on the catfish has a big spine in it. It's really sharp. And so if you ever catch a catfish, you have to grab it kind of a certain way so that you don't get poked by that. So those are some interesting things. Other things I want you guys to quick notice. Do you see the fish that kind of have dark colors on the top and light colors on the bottom? How could that be an adaptation that helps them survive? What do we think? So imagine that catfish. You guys see how the catfish is pretty dark on top, pretty light on bottom. So if they swim around at the bottom of the lake or in a river and their top side is dark, what color is it down there deep in the water? It's dark, right? So if anything looks down at them, are they going to be able to see them? Not really, but imagine if you've ever been in a pool maybe and you look up, is it light or is it dark from the bottom of the pool? It is light. And so if an animal or maybe a different fish is under that catfish and looks kind of up, it won't really be able to see it because it blends in with the light coming in from the top of the water too. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, cool. So as you guys can see, there are a lot of physical adaptations on our fish, and we don't have time to go through all of them. But one other thing I wanted to point out is that sometimes fish have things on them that maybe don't serve a purpose, which is an interesting thing in science. So if any of you guys noticed on the trout and the catfish, they have an extra fin. Did anybody notice that? It's at the back right before the tail. That's that adipose fin that we were talking about. Scientists don't actually really know what the point of that fin is. So it's possible that maybe more prehistoric fish used to have a use for that sort of fin, but then it didn't become very valuable for them to survive. And so over time, other fish have sort of lost that. Like if you see the bluegill, they don't even have an adipose fin, right? So pretty cool. You guys did great on that. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna kind of switch gears and do a really fast, different activity, okay? So the next thing we're gonna do is an activity called Fashion a Fish. And so what you guys are gonna do is your teacher is going to hand out these cards. So basically, you guys are each going to get 4 cards, okay? And so we have 4 categories of types of adaptations for these fish that you guys are actually gonna make your own fish, okay? And you're going to make this fish based on the cards that you get, okay? And so I have 2 examples of types of cards up here. So one of your cards is going to be about body shape. So it will tell you what shape to make your fish into. And there's probably a certain reason why it would be that shape, right? We talked about if they're more of like a vertical disc, like the bluegill was, that kind of helps them speed through the water. But even faster might be the torpedo shape, okay? And then you've got coloration. So it will tell you kind of what color patterns that your fish has. And then it will also tell you the mouth type that your fish has and the type of reproductive behavior that it does. Because not all fish do the same thing when they lay their eggs or maybe they give live birth, okay? If you want to go ahead and pass out the cards first and then pass out Play-Doh. All right, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to go ahead and pick what you have, what your fish adaptations are going to be, and then go ahead and start making your fish with your Play-Doh, okay? All right, I am so interested to see what you guys have come up with. I'm going to actually have maybe, do you want to call like 1 or 2 people up to show me what they made, and maybe anybody that wants to share about their fish and show me can come up and share kind of with me and with the class.
Okay, so hold it to the screen.
Oh man.
Okay, tell them what it is.
It was supposed to have the feature of the grouper mouth, but I didn't have enough Play-Doh.
Oh, I love it though. Why didn't you have enough Play-Doh?
I tried to even just stretch it out even more so it was longer, but
No, that's great, because what were you trying to do?
make a grouper with some stripes on it.
Yeah, and you wanted to make its mouth really what?
Wide.
Yeah, so that's great. You were definitely trying to make it what your card said, so good job. So why might it have a giant mouth like that?
So it can swallow up food without having the risk of getting bit back.
Yeah, I like that. It can just swallow it all in one gulp, right? And then it can't fight back. The other stuff can't fight back, huh? Yeah, good job. Nice work. You can go ahead and go back to your seat. If one other person wants to come up and kind of share their fish.
Okay.
So I wanted to make the torpedo shape.
Ooh,
I did put like little fan thingies,
ooh, I like it.
Good.
some gills, and
Nice. And so what kind of mouth did it have? Is it just on the front? Oh, is it like a sucker mouth?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So different types of mouths will allow them to eat different kinds of things, right? And since maybe another fish doesn't have that type of mouth, it will never get to eat those things. So awesome work. You can go return to your seat. Good job. Great job, all of you. You have done an amazing job today. And before I go, I just want to give you a chance. Maybe up to 3 people can ask a quick question. So if anybody has a question about fish, their adaptations, I'm all ears. Let me know.
What questions do you have? Kimberly, go ahead.
How long has she been fishing?
Like, how long has she been? Like, does she like to fish, or how long? I think she means how long have you been studying fish?
Ooh, good question. Well, since I was your guys' age, I really liked fishing because my grandpa used to take me fishing a lot. And then I actually did summer camp stuff with kids about your age and taught them how to go fishing. And now I work with Nebraska Game and Parks, but I don't know everything about fish. There's still a lot to learn. So that's a good question.
Erin?
What's the most common fish that you catch?
Did you hear that?
I did not.
He said, which is the most common fish that you can catch in Nebraska?
Ooh, that is a great question. So I would say what that type is in your classroom. It's that bluegill is pretty common to find because they're really good at surviving in lots of environments. So they are well adapted to let them live in like really kind of bad water that has pollution in it or really clean water. So great question.
Johnny? What is one of the more rare fish that you can find in Nebraska?
Here we go. Do you see those 2 fish on this slide? Yeah, so that top fish is called a pallid sturgeon, and it actually is an endangered species. So it lives in the Missouri River and sometimes makes its way into the Platte River. But it is, do you see those scales? It's a very prehistoric fish. They think this type of fish has been living on the earth for like hundreds of years. So it's a really cool fish, but it's kind of rare to see. And then that other fish down on to the right is called a paddlefish. And so they have that giant kind of like nose looking thing that helps them sense things in the water. So those are rare fish that tend to live in the river, and not a lot of people get to see them. So great question. I can maybe take one more if it's super, super fast, but then I gotta go.
Okay, Leah, quick.
Isn't the sturgeon endangered because a lot of people eat their eggs?
Ooh, that is a fantastic question for us to end with. So pallid sturgeon are actually going extinct, or they're endangered because they rely on the Missouri River. And if you guys have ever seen the Missouri River, these days it's very deep, it's very fast moving, and most people don't spend a lot of time going on that river unless they have the right tools, because it's very fast and deep and kind of a dangerous river sometimes. However, it was not always like that. So up by like Katie, where she is at Ponca State Park, the river looks more natural and like how it used to look before humans changed it. So the reason that the river is deep and fast now is because humans used to move like big barges full of supplies up the river, and they couldn't do that if the river was shallow, so they made it deeper. And then by making it deeper, that makes it faster flowing. And so, but up by where Katie is, it actually is still, there's sandbars, which sandbars are really good because those sorts of habitat is what the pallid sturgeon needs in order to lay its eggs and keep the life cycle going. And the other thing about pallid sturgeon that makes it hard for them to do that is they actually are not ready to fertilize eggs until they're like maybe like 15 or 20 years old, which is a long time for them to survive before they can ever help make new pallid sturgeon, right? Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah, so they have a few issues kind of threatening them, but there are still some good habitats for them, especially up by Ponca State Park. So if you guys get the chance to go there, you should definitely do it because it's really cool. And I used to work there and loved it. So you guys should definitely check it out if you never have. And they usually have cool programs where you can try fishing. So if you've never tried it, you could go there and try it out. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Do you have other programs to do?
Yeah.
Yeah? Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have fun, and I will see you later.
What do we say?
Thank you.
Thank you.